And this is Ken Kraetzer in our nation's capital for CBSI Services and PACE, the Professional Association for Customer Engagement. This year's 2015 Washington Summit just wrapped up, very well attended, and also some very high-spirited discussion, much about the Federal Communications ruling in July about the Telephone Consumer Protection Act, which really affirmed and made more stringent many of the requirements for practitioners and brands. And so we had really a lot of commentary from different attorneys about what the implications are and really what brands have to do to protect themselves and to be good practitioners, to be able to call their customers in an era of majority of customers now having cell phones, and cell phones you have to have consent of the customer to call them. So a lot of discussion. We had presentations from the Federal Communications Commission yesterday. Mike O'Reilly, one of the 5 commissioners, actually one of the 2 commissioners who voted against the ruling, which was approved in a 3-2 vote in July. And he commented on some of his concerns about what had been approved. And then we heard from the Federal Trade Commission, Jessica Rich, who is their Director of Consumer Protection, and really talked about a lot of the misuse of telemarketing and also online marketing that her office and her agency has been able to disrupt and to stop. So positives in that respect. Today, in the second day, I should mention we had a great reception yesterday at the National Press Club, and that was a nice evening for everyone. Today we had started the day with a discussion of a very important program that the PACE Association has been very involved with, and that is Jobs for America, which through the call center industry has been able to help find thousands of jobs for those in need of employment opportunities. And one of the points that the panel made is that call center jobs tend to be better paying than a lot of other jobs that people are looking at, and often it does not really get the credit for really as many as 3 to 5 million people working in the field of call center contact centers in the United States. It was brought up by Jack Wilkie, who's the new president of Jobs for America, that contact centers pay $75 billion in annual payroll. So really an important economic factor for the country. One of the panelists this morning, Jeff Sheehan, mentioned that really the trend in call centers is to come back to the United States to do much more of the customer service call handling, and that is something that is certainly very important to the industry and certainly to regulators and government officials that the industry has as much of the activity domestically in the U.S. as possible. Caitlin Codella of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce this morning really talked about the need for job training in many sectors of the U.S. economy, that as many as 5 million jobs go unfilled simply because employers can't find people that can handle those particular jobs. We had a great opportunity to talk with Stedman Graham, who is a noted author. He's got 11 books, and I will mention he is a U.S. Army veteran. And Stedman talked a little bit about his practice in teaching people identity development, that you have to know yourself in order to move forward in life, and then to establish vision, in some cases much bigger visions than people might have had in their plans so far. Then in the afternoon, we had again a couple of panels of attorneys talking about again how to be compliant with the new regulations of the TCPA that came out this summer in this era of cell phones, and also the question of how to get consent to call someone on their cell phone. And obviously we had a lot of discussion this week about all the variables of people who change their phone numbers and they're reissued, and what happens because of the ruling from the Federal Communications Commission. Brand only has one phone call to make to identify if that customer is still the one who gave the original consent. And there's concern that some of the lawyers expressed about class action suits and other legal actions that marketers can be liable for if they are not able to determine that a phone number has been reassigned, for example. So something to watch very closely. We said with Christine Riley. We have another interview with Christine and talking a little more detail. Really an expert in the field, and talked a little bit about service agreements. She signed up for a service. It was cited about a bank that offered mobile banking, and in the terms asked for consent from the customer to send them marketing messages going forward, and there was a regulatory action on that. So a lot of subtleties have to be watched very carefully. The organization PACE is looking at trying to have an appeal of the TCPA ruling and try to suggest terms that would be much more common sense, would serve both practitioners and customers more effectively. So we'll see what happens, but again, watch very carefully. A lot more information on the PACE, Professional Association for Customer Engagement website. And also you can look at CBSI Services website. We'll have some interviews up about some of the speakers and guests today. I had a chance to talk with Stedman Graham a little bit. Very interesting man to meet. He's come a long way, done a lot of interesting things, and we have a talk with Stedman. So also you can follow us on Twitter. My Twitter is at Ken Kraetzer, Kraetzer, and also you can follow me on LinkedIn as well as cbsiservices.com. Well, that's about it from our nation's capital. We're just looking out over from the W Hotel. Wonderful view of the Washington Monument and the White House. And just across the way, we see Arlington National Cemetery and the Pentagon. So it's always very humbling to come to Washington to see all those who have served our country in the past and continue to serve today. So for CBSI Services and PACE, the Professional Association for Customer Engagement, from our nation's capital, this is Ken Kraetzer.